like 8,000 feet, like you're going to know how to trowel.
Good to go?
Yeah.
They're going to go light mic.
Bright, though. Jeez. The glare, man. I should put my glasses on, huh?
Good morning.
So bright.
So we are Team ARDEX this morning. We're going to go over our exterior tile installation systems. So joining me this morning, Mr. Jason McDaniels.
How's it going, everybody?
As well as Mark Panine. Mark Panine is the head of our ARDEX Tile and Stone Technical. And my counterpart, Tim Ahammer. So we're going to be going over 2 of the 4 exterior tile installation systems that we have. So we're going to start out with the most critical piece, and that's the profiles and the edge banding that's required for these installations. So Tim and Mark are going to work together and show you how these profiles go on. So you'll notice the profile here at the front edge. So the profiles have been mounted to the substrate, and now what they're doing is they're actually applying the ARDEX US 420 tape, and what that does is bridges between the profile and the substrate. Now you'll notice that they're working in tandem to do this. This is a really, really sticky adhesive on there. Once it makes contact, Jason, your experience?
Sticky.
It sticks.
Sticky.
So they're working together to ensure that they don't get any wrinkles or folds in it. So the fleece side goes to the inside.
Yeah, I mean, what Mark's doing is really, that's a key right there to do what he's doing. Pull it out as you go so that this stuff will stick to everything. So it's a smart play to do that during install.
Tim, if I can hold this up for a sec. So you'll notice that they've made a notch here, and what they've done is they've cut off the fleece section so that there is no overlap on this here.
Yeah, William, even though you have a drainage mat going over the top, you still want to limit how much buildup that you have underneath, similar to doing a sheet membrane or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this also bridges between the profile and the substrate so that as water is coming off of this system, so this system is not designed to be waterproof. This is actually going to manage water through the system. So they'll get that final piece peeled off there, stick that down. And so the system that they're working on your guys' left-hand side is going to be the WATEX system. So with the WATEX system, the next step is going to be to install this perimeter edge expansion. And what that does is allows the entire assembly to expand and contract.
I think the thing about the expansion, I talk about expansion a lot. I mean, it's just something that's so important, especially on an exterior application. I mean, things are moving a lot. You know, Pacific Northwest and hot climates, things are, you know, they're swelling, they're shrinking constantly. So having proper expansion to, you know, the house, whatever's around, you got to have movement. So really important to have proper expansion.
Now, once it goes to the mat installation, it's as simple as that. Tim just laid that down. It is a free floating system, so this doesn't require any adhesive underneath of it.
Something important to know about this system and why you would use it. If you have limited elevation, this is a perfect system. I had a job where we had 1 inch to the doors that were already installed. This was about the only thing that would work because you don't build up. You just put the mat in. I mean, it's not as easy as that, but you know, you proper substrate prep, joists, I mean, all that, deflection ratings, all that has to be looked at. But it's a perfect system when you don't have elevation.
The entire assembly with a 3/8 tile, the entire assembly is 7/8 of an inch. So in Jason's application, where he barely had an inch to work with, we were able to use this system and still have a sound installation. Now you'll notice the last tape that they applied here. What that tape does is it keeps mortar from filling in these profile gaps, or the air ventilation channels. We don't want mortar to go down the edge of our mat, and so what that final tape did was just seal that off so that we don't get mortar squeezing down the edge.
And something really important about exterior stuff, I always say, as an installer, you should really master interior before you step to exterior. I mean, 8 years ago, I probably had no business doing exterior, so it's just over these last 3 or 4 years where my skills and training have gotten to the point where exterior is in my wheelhouse, but it is not in everybody's wheelhouse. Really focus on interior installations, proper methods and standards, and then step to an exterior. It's just not for everybody.
Absolutely. So you'll notice on this system, now they put down our mat. So this is the Pro Drain system. And with Pro Drain, they're putting the expansion strip on top of the drainage mat. And it's just that easy. So the expansion strip actually has an adhesive tab on it, and we just press that down into place. So for this system, the TerraMax system, we're going to be using the ARDEX Pro Drain drainage mat, and we're going to be installing a 2cm porcelain paver. Now for this installation, we're using ARDEX X32 mortar. So the advantage of ARDEX X32 mortar is that it can go thin to thick. So we can go down as little as 1/8 of an inch, all the way up to 1 1/4 inches with this material. So Tim is keying out the entire back of the tile, flat troweling that. And Mark is applying cement pedestals to our drainage membrane. So both of them are keying into the substrate. Keying in is always critical with every tile installation.
Key in, always back butter. I mean, again, when you're doing, any tile installation, but specifically exterior, everything is just multiplied when you're outside. It's just the way that it is.
Ideally, with these installations on the TerraMax system, we don't want our cement pedestals to exceed 1/4 of an inch. So these aren't going to be very tall, which again keeps our overall profile incredibly low.
William, isn't there a certain thickness of porcelain tile that needs to be spec'd for this application?
Correct. So the porcelain tile for this type of application would be the same tile used in a pedestal application. So it needs to be a self-supporting 2cm or possibly even 3cm natural stone, but it must be approved for a pedestal type installation because this is not getting a full bed of mortar underneath the pit. Has anyone in the crowd dealt with 2cm pavers yet?
Yeah, me.
It's a workout, isn't it, Jay?
It's brutal, yeah.
It's a workout.
Go get yourself a few grabos. Keep them close.
Absolutely. So what Mark is doing is he's simply placing that 2cm paver, tapping it down into place. And what he would do to address that perimeter edge is we can use our ARDEX SX silicone sealant, 100% silicone that's available in 36 different colors, and we can take care of all of our grout joints and expansion joints with SX sealant. So now we'll be moving on to the ARDEX WATEX system. Now, Jason, you've done several of these WATEX systems in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah, and again, this is another one of those situations where proper substrate prep. Try to get in on these jobs early. I've been on a couple where they didn't have a solution, so they call me. We come up with a solution, but it's a little too late. We don't have time to fix the substrate, so that ends up making for a much longer installation, much more difficult. The idea is you're doing this. You're keying in your substrate, you're directionally troweling, and you're back buttering the tile, and you're setting it. So you've got to have proper substrate prep. It's got to be nice and flat, 1/8 of an inch over 10 feet. That is what you're looking for. Obviously, you don't want to be spot bonding, and you don't want to be building up. It's thin set for a reason, thin set. So definitely try to get in on the architect specs before the deck's even getting built would be ideal. And another kind of thing is double troweling. Double troweling. I noticed that double troweling helps a lot. troweling the substrate with a notch and troweling the tile with a notch. That gives you a little bit more room to fuss around, and it also gives you really a much better coverage.
So the WATEX system, actually both of these systems, are managing the water. So I'm going to touch on that again. So these are not waterproof systems. The waterproofing, if we're over an occupied space, would be done by others, meaning a roofing contractor or the general contractor that is licensed to do that kind of work because it's an actual roof. If we're over non-occupied space, we can install these systems, and we have some waterproofing that's available in those applications. But if it is over living space, we need a primary waterproofing membrane.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's done it, but this is not a waterproof product, so make sure the substrate, like a shower pan, it's got to be waterproof.
And this system is not waterproof. It is actually going to allow water through it, and that water is going to be managed and directed out through those slots in the profile. And also that allows ventilation to come in. So some of the problems that we get with exterior tile, efflorescence, expansion, contraction, heaving that takes place, discoloration because things are constantly wet and submerged. That's managed with these systems because they're always directing the water out and allowing air to come in and dry out the entire assembly. Now on our WATEX system, we can use the SX sealant just like we can with our Terramax system. Now if our tiles are 16 by 16 or smaller and a square set, we can use grout, so ARDEX FL or ARDEX WA grout. If the tiles are larger than 16 inches or we have any sort of pattern, like the one you did was a herringbone.
Yeah, it was.
And so in that application, if we have any sort of pattern, we're going to use SX in all the joints. And what that does is basically every tile is allowed to be an expansion, allowed to be movement, because these are unbonded systems, right? So these aren't attached to the substrate at all.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that we've done has all been silicone. I mean, we've done...
You've done hard set with silicone.
I've done hard set with silicone, yeah. I mean, the silicone just, it always is. It stays the exact same all the time. It doesn't discolor. There's no efflorescence. I mean, there's so much that benefits by doing the silicone. Obviously, doing silicone, thousands of square feet of it, you've got to learn how to do that.
There's a learning curve.
There is a learning curve.
First time,
yep.
Little bit slower.
Little bit slower. You know, having tools, you know, the different types of glass cleaners, denatured alcohol, those types of things, really important to be tuned up on silicone before you go tooling a couple thousand square feet of joints, for
and
sure.
It gets faster. I mean, as I watched your brother Sean,
my brother,
as he was taking care of like the Gores project,
fast.
It almost looked to me as if he was faster than if he were regular grout.
Absolutely, yeah. The silicone can go really fast once you get the hang of it. I always say to test it, like whenever each project I've done, I built a little tiny mock-up and just tooled the silicone a little bit to see how it was going to act on that particular product. Yeah. So really important to test the area, test the silicone, anything that you're working with. Make sure that you're familiar before you go cracking that tube and going for it.
Now we do have two other systems that are available in our ARDEX exterior installation system. So we have a plastic pedestal system called TSL, and these come in 6 different heights. They're adjustable. They have a pivoting head. So those would be used with a 2cm paver. And then we also have what's called the Pro Drain system. The Pro Drain system actually uses a drainage mortar bed of A14. So imagine if you could, Rice Krispies made out of cement. Yeah, and you've installed that system as well.
Yeah, that's another one of those things that if you're not a mud guy and you're not a mud mechanic, you better find one. That is a great product, but it's not normal. It's not like pulling a mud bed or a dry pack. It's bigger aggregate, and really the weather is important. It's better to do on an overcast day. I mean, there's a couple little tricks there that you can make life a little bit easier for the drainage mortar, because the drainage mortar is unique. It's incredible, and it really got us out of a bind. But you really need to be tooled up in order to do that.
So on the WATEX system, tell them what you did with the garden hose over top the WATEX system.
Yeah, actually I have a really great video. It was before we siliconed, and we took a hose and put it over the entire installed and it just it was great. It all in the house. It all just poured out and right down through these water, ventilation channels right there. Yeah. So it's and I have 10,000 square feet out there right now that I've done, and it all looks like the day we did it. And a lot of that is because of the silicone. You're not worried about grout and efflorescence and things like that and movement. When the whole thing can move, you're not going to have grout failures and things. So
now you had a really unique opportunity because recently you were allowed to actually go and replace the tile. Not because there was anything wrong with the installation, because the owner changed their mind and has a lot of money and decided that they wanted the tile inside to match the tile outside, and so now you're currently retiling the entire house.
Yeah.
But you've actually went back and removed this system.
Right.
How tough was that?
I mean, I felt really bad. They asked me to demo it, and I said, there's no way I'm going to demo my own work. So that poor guy out there, it took him 3 weeks. I mean, the pieces were coming up in little itty-bitty 1/8-inch chunks, and he was screaming my name the whole time. So definitely, when installed properly, like all tile, it should last. I mean, exterior is different, but it should last, a long time, if not forever.
So let's talk a little bit about the mortar used with Watec.
Yeah, so X90 outdoor. Yeah, it dries fast. It's considered rapid. I mean, you've got 90 minutes to 2 hours. Definitely an amazing thin set. It's really easy to work with as long as you have used it. You kind of understand it. Mixing, proper water, read the bag. Mix it for 3 minutes. These are all really important things,
Now, wouldn't you say that X90 outdoor played a part in when he went to remove and demo that tile?
I have the video. This guy with a jackhammer, it just was not coming up. That thin set it's alien. I mean, it's an incredible product. So definitely don't get into an exterior application and go to the Home Depot and buy a $5 bag of mud. I mean, the thing about exterior is the liability is ramped way up. So you have to understand that if something
for failure,
right? If something fails, you're on the hook. So definitely overdo everything. I'm a big time overdoer, and I overdo everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, that does it for us with our installation here today. Do we have the opportunity? Are there any questions? Do we have the opportunity to ask any questions? Alrighty. Well, thank you very much for your time. I think they're going around handing out some tickets right now and do the raffle.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, Mark and Tim.